All right, so welcome back to another video in Finding Freedom. Now, when it comes to how to build a heart of stone in the death of love, right? How to go out with somebody because, well, we'll explain what a barracks rat is because that's how they make a sad rat, right? But in order to find the golden snitch, it's normally the one that's acting like it rhymes with something, but that could be male or female. Now, when they talk about all these blue pill, red pill, think about the Matrix, right? Because they're trying to put you into a mental health epidemic, right? Because in the mental health space, they give you a red pill, blue pill if you're bipolar. I think the medication looks that color. You could ask Vivian, Debbie, or whoever is a doctor in the field. Actually, you could talk to Frank. I heard he's a great nurse practitioner. So it's one of those things where, is it a pharmaceutical or is it a drug? And if drugs are illegal, then are the doctors drug dealers? And why is it illegal or legal for them? Because they went to school to play scientists. But then if you don't go to school, then it's not, it is? I don't know. It's so weird. Anyways, let's get into this. So, when your own family betray you and help in your murder, screw them, right? Because they'll say stuff like, oh, everybody dies. Oh, this, that, and the third, because they just want to see a show, right? And then, of course, are you a poppy? Are you a daddy? Whatever. But if the world is based on Sodom and Gomorrah, well, then let's continue with the sex magic, like practical magic and not pure media. So, you just got to say, screw it, let's do it sometimes, right? Because, I mean, hell, when the Queen of Spain came to the United States in North Carolina, you have to remember that's silent pain, right? If you put the S together with pain, that's silent pain. And then if a brown recluse or brown recluse has a violin, so they'll have you, once they break your heart listening to music and everything else, then they'll try to figure out things psychologically. If they want to murder you or give you something, or they start saying stupid stuff like, oh, you look a little red there, ask them if they have a red iPhone, because the Black Widow has a red hourglass figure, right? Kind of like a beautiful woman, right? Marilyn Monroe had an hourglass figure, Betty Boop, and all these other people, right? So let's get into it, right? Because what's the difference between a honey trap, a honey badger, and a honey pot, right? So you can honey dip stuff, no pun intended. But then, of course, what is a honey trap, right? And then do they hang out with those that like trap music? Do they set you up in entrapment? Or what is that, right? Because a honey trap would be entrapment. Right? Did you sleep with this person? Did this happen? Did this that well, if it happened, blah 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 blah. Now they're fabricating, right? Or they're trying to piece together something because they're either trying to blackmail or fabricate or commit entrapment. And according to Sean Connery and a couple other books, entrapment is one thing, which is what law or intelligence or whatever does to certain individuals. And then blackmail is what other people, like if you're a Freemason or a Templar, if you played Assassin's Creed, you know that just because you look the same, carry the same title, you're not the same, right? Then, of course, there's a war going on, right? But is it internally or externally? Now, if a Marine is in the military, are they the same as the Army? Are they the same as the Air Force? Are they the same as the Navy? They're a department of the Navy. They swim like the Navy. They operate on ground like the um, Army. They have their own planes because, well, I guess they don't trust very many people for some weird reason. I mean, why would they set people up? I mean, people have caught Agent Orange from Vietnam and stuff like that. So if you know anybody that has Agent Orange or got captured or held hostage by Agent Orange and all the agents that work for them, so on and so forth, they normally wear black uniforms, give or take, unless they're just going out to look sexy. But it is what it is, right? Because Batman wore black. But then again, Batman had the Joker, so he had someone to release his abusive strength on because the Joker, I guess, could keep taking a beating. And Heath Ledger's character, the Joker, was actually based off of the Crow, his whole personality, who was Bruce Lee's son. Ironically, Batman's first name was Bruce. So let's move to the second point. All the love stories are just that, and sex always sells no matter how loyal one is. So if this chick is working for a pimp, a marketer, whatever the case may be, a lot of people like to code, but if your phone's listening to everything, then you could just ask ChatGPT or AI or whatever, and it'll literally tell you what it means translated in that industry, right? It's not building a rocket or anything like that, right? Unless she's an astronaut, then she may be attractive, and if they can't procreate because they sterilize you, because God forbid in Star Trek they had so many babies because everybody was probably sleeping with each other on ship, well then they would have to go back and drop some people off, right? So the love stories are just that, right? Because, well, after a while, it's like going to the gym. You develop a callus, right? So if you go to the gym, you get one of those. That's a callus, right? From lifting heavy weights, right? And then, of course, the Green Berets, they have the motto of Opreso de Libre, but in Puerto Rico, a libre is a pound, right? So pound out or pound it, etc. But in Latin, it could be a pound, right? So why is it libre there, right? So free, they say to free the oppressed, but libertad is liberty, not freedom. So you have to understand certain things, right? And let's not get into their mottos, because most people don't understand why they're understood in different languages and what North, South, and Central America are. But they do have teams and groups, and there's differences between teams and groups, even though that they're citizens, right? There's citizens, there's pedestrians, but there's differences between citizens and pedestrians. Now, no one wants to work for less, and no one wants to be with less. This is how they control things, right? So if a rich person or wealthy person, someone with influence, power, etc., doesn't want somebody that has something, right? So, oh, your penis is too small, or I like this, or they work here, or they're an Uber driver, or they work at McDonald's, or they work there, they don't make enough money. You have less, so they don't want you. And then after they get introduced to somebody with more, they get attached to that. It's a attachment style, right? You got to have a proper picker for that, right? Now, when it comes to certain things, you have, well, blue on blue crime, you have other types of crimes, and then you have DJs and JDs going around wanting to do stuff, right? I remember this one chick said that she wanted to be a DJ. And I was like, oh, well, if you want to be a DJ, here's the, phone, you can DJ. Now, she was trying to say something without trying to get in trouble, but she always got in trouble. So I was like, hey, do you know this? And she goes, oh, I said, yeah, put that in the middle. So are you a DJ or a JD? Which one? I don't know. But I heard you got an advance from Germany. Congratulations. Your ID almost felt and looked slightly real. We'll just say that it was because your accent. But it did stop when I used the word matriz, and that's French for teacher. And someone got offended. Now, I don't know why a French beret would require you to understand Latin, but a matriz is a teacher in French. Have fun with that one. So, what is loyalty? Well, if someone says that they're loyal, but they keep screwing you over, right? Or if somebody's a golden snitch, right? So they're envious, they're jealous of someone who went to the military, has disability benefits, etc. They see them trying to work and everything like that. They never went themselves, but they're like, oh, well, if you could do all that, mind you, they don't pay attention to all the Motrin and ibuprofen that you take in order to, well, push through the pain. Because they didn't do it them fucking selves, but they get paid well to snitch, right? And they could pretend that they're married, right? So the golden snitch, the golden lasso of truth. Remember, Wonder Woman was with both Superman and Batman. Batman stayed single for a reason. So you got to understand, right? Like if I were to go, that would be Pokemon. But I have friends that do other stuff, right? And that would be a voice actor. Would you be upset that somebody got paid if they caught COVID and they couldn't use their voice? So while they were recovering and you heard them whisper or write, you said, you know what, I'm going to take this away from you because you could still speak. So I'm not going to, you just don't deserve it. You shouldn't get it. I'm going to come after everything you have. Blah, 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 blah. I'm going to move your taxes, your monthly debt from one ledger to another because I saw you, I threw something at you and I said, good catch. And then I looked at your father and that's the same thing he did to your uncle who's Italian. I think he's from Sicily. Weird. Oh, well, we saw him working out in the gym, blah, blah, blah. He had this bottle. Is he lying? Probably not. Probably not. but they keep going, right? Until you put them in that situation. So let's practice multiple shoulder throws while you wear this weighted vest. Let's go ahead and put you in Spartan competitions. Let's go ahead and put you in sparring competitions as well. Then let's go ahead and have you just slip and fall and try to catch yourself, and then have your shoulder come out of socket again and go back into socket. Let's do that. Let's do that so that you can understand the pain that someone feels when you want to fuck around and find out, right? But you want to keep going. So let's keep going, right? So if love doesn't exist, then what you do is you become a Cupid, right? You hook other people up with people, right? Oh, she looks healthy. You should go talk to her. Yo, wear a hat, blah, blah, blah. And then she'll go, you should listen to him, etc. Because it's about sex. In marketing, what do they have? Keeping Up with the Kardashians. What was that based off of? A sex tape, right? When people go out, they wear Lululemon so tight that it just draws attention to you, right? So they must be looking for suitable mates. So there's nothing with playing with minors, is there? Because they got a lot of money to do so. You're okay with that, though. Because if he could do it, then she could do it. So what's the difference if I went out with, say, let's say Melania Trump was single and we went on a date? Better yet, Christie, right? From Homeland Security. We went out on a date. She was several years older than me, etc. Is that a bad thing? Is she rocking the cradle? Or you say, you go, girl, you go. But if it's reversed, it's different and you don't like it. And there's chaos and animosity going back and forth, right? And you can never trust a scorpion because, well, a scorpion will tell you whatever they want to get the ride across the ocean and then kill the turtle. So if the Navy dealt with a lot of scorpions, well, then what did that do to the Navy and the Marines? So you have to prepare the Marines, right, to deal with black widows, brown recluses, scorpions, etc. Now, you may go to a club and, I don't know what the difference is between underwear and a bikini, but apparently if you wear underwear on a beach or near one in public, it's illegal. But if you have a bikini on, it's completely illegal. That's the psychological matrix false fallacy, right? Remember, I told you, they have all these communities, red pill, blue pill, black pill, blah, blah, blah. How do you think they sell drugs? Oh, I'm sorry, pharmaceuticals in the mental health space. You need a pill. Here's a blue one. Here's a red one. Here's a black one. Blah, blah, blah. And if you pay taxes on it, it's legal, right? So how'd you know? So when it comes to bros, they normally hang out with something that rhymes with them that you use in a garden called a hoe. Now, a hoe is used for digging. So if you're digging for information, is that person a right? Or is that your partner in crime? Then you could call her an escort. It sounds degrading. However, if you have a lot of money, because escorts make more money than the other, right? Just like a gardener makes less money than the person that owns the garden, right? Madison Square. So are you offended by that? Does that Freudian slip, does that Freudian taboo language, which is taught in psychology class, by the way, offend you? Now that triggers your CNS, right? Your emotional part, right? And if you guys paid attention to continuing education, we're getting into emotions, your emotions get triggered. Once your emotions get triggered, I now have your attention. Welcome to the attention economy, and people are starving for information. So friends with hoes that bros screw and get pregnant is interesting, right? Somebody's got to take care of them, right? Not you, because you have less, right? So they're not going to even bother messing with you. Oh my God, this, that, and the third, blah, 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 blah. He has this, but I have a baby daddy that pays me, so I have all the money in the world. I don't have to work again if I want to. I could go around doing whatever I want. Unless you don't make that much, and now you're stuck in a conundrum. Right? You wanted diversity, equity, inclusion, and everybody in, so that's fine. Bring everybody in. You want to go to war, but you don't want to do that. You want to go to conflict, but you don't want to do that. People say you're overstepping, but then they forget about the Constitution and freedom of speech, and they get mad with words. And then they want to use the right to bear arms. That's why they say, welcome to the gun show, right? Is that why they flex so much? Because I promise you, in prison, you do not have the invisible muscles that guns and weaponry give you. So if you're not going to the gym and you're just running your mouth looking for something to happen, I promise you, somebody else will raise your children if this war happens. I'm willing to put my package back in and go back. I seen what North Carolina is capable of. I seen what you all are capable of. I'd rather go do something else so you guys can keep doing the stupid shit that you're doing here. They say snitches get stitches. Is that like 9 or 12 of them? Or but it takes 9 months to make a baby, so where's Pluto? That's why you go to a university. Now, this does come down to, well, the type of output one has. See, in the military, we accept everybody, but there's some females and males that are more masculine, more feminine than others. So even joking around with one of my friends, I'd be like, yeah, if we're going to walk down this street, you want me to be your man? I'm the man in the relationship. You are clearly the girl or female. Okay? Why? I don't know. Maybe because you're emotional. I have no idea. But the masculine work and chase money to get what comes with it, along with the infinite sex, lots of sex. So if you became an attorney, you went into the finance space, you wanted all this money, not to take care of family, but to have lots of sex and put the facade on because the money's not backed by anything. So you just chasing paper, the infinite paper chase, right? I might as well pay with paper like Darren Brown, right? Because if somebody breaks your heart, they'll leave you playing a violin or music, so you have a brown recluse like a black widow, right? But the black widow kills. The brown recluse will just break your heart and create a heart of stone. Why is he listening to that music? He's in his feelings right now. They just broke up. Did he get hit by a brown recluse? Who knows, right? But I promise you, if you want to fuck around and find out and the war happens, someone else will raise your children and make more with them. Look at how social media is manipulating them right now. But you guys like S&M. Remember Rihanna's song? What does that stand for? The feminine does the same, but for choice, right? Because of the standards that occur. So once a woman reaches a certain level, right, she has choices now. Everybody has choices, but because men are more, or the masculine energy, as they want to call it or phrase it, is more dominant, like a dominus. So they might call you Dominic if you are a dominatrix or into that, or like a Punisher, and you don't know when to stop. It's a Roman term, actually, from the times of, well, Spartacus, Gladiator, etc. So is Dominic Toretto a dominatrix? Is he a dominus? Is he a abuser? Is he a punisher? Is he going to give you to the count of 3? And then that person that got beaten is there on their knees and gets told to walk away? In business, sex sells, and to this day, it still does, even after thousands of years have passed. Oldest profession in the world. Why are they looked at so poorly? OnlyFans models. Here's a free offer. It works forwards and backwards. Now you got to pay me, right? Put an offering there. That's a OF, right? For the first 2 letters from an offer, right? You want to do this? Well, you got to offer up something, right? But then what is the second and third oldest professions? Because, I mean, trace law only gets factored in but so many times. And after a brown recluse, a black widow, and everything else, and a scorpion get involved. And now everybody's looking at the Dom like, what's going on? I thought you said this, this, and this. I thought they were lying. Aren't you guys married? Is that on contract? Were you sitting at a table with a pastor or preacher and you said, oh my God, it's just like you're incestuous. You want to be with somebody like me, and then somebody that acts like you shows the fuck up. And then you try to catch amnesia. Are they going to cover for you in a courtroom? There's a difference between a library and a museum. So if you tell somebody they're in a library, you have to look around and realize this looks more like a museum. Remember Midnight at the Museum or Night at the Museum? Similar concept, but different things happened and occurred there. The second oldest profession, right? Hunter-gatherer, right? They go hand in hand. See, the gatherer will gather fruits, berries, and all that other fun stuff, right? The hunters will think Assassin's Creed. And then you just combine them together, right? So you have hunters and gatherers working together, right? That would be Assassin's Creed. Whereas back in the day, you had those that hunted livestock, right? The greatest game in the world. And that was a book. People hunting other people and how to get away with murder, which I think was sponsored by JD, or at least a TV show about people trying to get and acquire their JD. And then, of course, you have Abagnale, or Abagnale, which had a French mother, which was very interesting, by the way. And his whole story, depending on how you got it received, because where there are stories that were told, and if they use fear to get you to read further, then you won't understand everything, right? And so when they make mistakes and they try to backtrack and then they're like, hey, you're crossing over. Well, did I? What's the Yellow Ribbon Program? How many men did it take to build America? Or did women help out? Or is it just one person? Really? Didn't Kanye say something? It gets the people going, right? Because you want to play with the CNS, the central nervous system, which also is affected by the brain that interprets que tú estás escuchando, what you're listening to. So, I mean, it really comes down to not just understanding, but how many stupid people are out there that are like, how many languages do you know? Because I saw this Darren Brown thing. I want to try it with technology and these direct energy techs and weapons that they utilize now, because they're not harmful. But if they can make you look or appear as such, well, it's like a magic trick. But now if they're profiting, it's manipulation by way of deceit or deception, right? To make money for the hospital, to make everybody else feel good, to show their racist intent or discriminatory behavior, to act like fucking children. They say Marines eat crayons, but it was a Marine that, well, created Crayola. And if we're not allowed to go anywhere, only a few do, but they don't come back the same sometimes, no pun intended, someone else will raise your children. Uncle Sam's misguided children. Remember that, right? You stupid man choose. That's USMC, right? But man is in both woman and man. Doesn't matter. NASCAR has a rainbow flag, ladies and gentlemen. But you're racing towards the black and white. You get upset when people say they got a side piece and all this, but never realize why a queen could go anywhere she wants on a chessboard. You want to be in what's known as the Bible Belt or a biblical era, but you forget about what happened with Eve and how she tricked Adam. Hey, take this. I saw someone else do it. They said, if we want to be like this, just do this. Babe, you're so strong. Oh my God. You know, if you just be his ass, you could totally get away with it. I'll help you. Don't worry, bro. I got your back. Bros for life. Blah, blah, blah. Motivation. Yay, motivation. Right? People act a certain way when they think someone has their back. But when they're out in the cold, ladies and gentlemen, that's when their true self shines through or shows. And then they try to make the game difficult in the matrix. And then when you start pushing back, because after a certain period of time, that's when restraints come off, even though they're cheating. So they install certain things like a Game Shark and then tap phones. It's one of those things where they like to play the mind game. See, Marines are warriors, not soldiers. Don't force them back into labor because you think you're smart, you fucking idiot. You wonder why you're stressed working at FedEx. Running your mouth like a golden snitch. Stop it. You're helping the enemy, Eve, right? You played Diablo. Why was Lilith in there as the final boss? That was Adam's first wife, wasn't it? You said, ooh, this isn't going to work. Let's try something else. As they say, on to the next one, like Jay said. But you wanted a public service announcement, right? Because this is what you came for. So what's wrong with you? Because I can tell you right now, keep running your mouth, keep projecting, and I could smack the taste out of it real quick. I'm ready to cash in unless they renew my contract. That's a promise. And anybody that knows me knows that I'm good for them. So please, by all means, keep trying your shit because you're backed by somebody looking for a reason to do something, like the king controlling everything on a chessboard. Oh, I could send my pawns out there, the little ones, the kids, right, to do stuff. Don't worry, the bishop and the knight and the rook has your back. But what happens if they get met by actual rooks? Some people that took an oath or follow a certain code. You think that's going to fucking matter? You're gambling. And if they don't care about discarding chess pieces like Bernard in the TV show Citadel. By the way, Saint Bernard, for those of you listening, Saint Bernard was the patron saint of beekeepers. I'm sure that was a great fucking movie. Think about it, people. Watch Citadel. Whereas Bernard and the leader of Manticore, who I guess was Mason's mom, MC, Citadel. Citadel's the college for the Marine Corps. Were they married at one point? But I thought Tucci was gay. I don't know. I'll leave that up to you and your research. But till next time, my friends, remember, there's always going to be somebody to help someone that's attractive, that has more than you, that doesn't get looked on, doesn't get pointed out, etc., unless they're trying to force you onto a stage so they could keep the mirage going within their army or whatever. Remember, the mayor and the governor are like cardinals, right? And the musketeers, if you have a 401k, right? All for one, one for all, right? They got in trouble for messing with the cardinals' guards, like messing with the mayor and governor's guards. Not the Pope, you fucktards. Which means no one ever said don't mess with the president or the Pope's guards. Do your research. So, till next time, my friends, I will talk to you later. And by the way, Semper Fi, do or die, and I don't know why, but once a Marine, always a Marine. Take care, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.